Hi friends, welcome to 2000, how do you even say it, 2020. This is not a formal, it's just a checking back in, saying hi, and thanks to those for all the messages, asking how I was, and when would I be back, and I'm back. So, yeah, I've been to rehab for the second time in a year, and by Jove, I think I've got it. Alcohol and I are not friends anymore. And that's cool, that's fine, actually. I had an amazing 12 weeks at a convent, Kumira, and awesome work they're doing. I think there's 5 or 7 rehabs they're running in Ireland and still expanding, even with the founder 82. So pretty amazing work going on there, and I'm very grateful. Yeah, so that's where I've been, and you know, it's a serious issue, I think, for a lot of people, and especially including survivors of trauma, child sexual abuse, and so on. Addiction is often the thing we stumble on, or you know, for a lot of survivors, sadly, can end up in death. You know, so the more of us that can stay alive and keep fighting the good fight, the better. So here I am. Let me see. Yeah, I've only been back online like a couple of days, a day and a half or something. And thankfully, like the last time I came home after 3 months offline, Isaac Cappy had died, Robert Greene had died, somebody else had died. That it was so. This time, I don't think anybody's died. Although I'm sad to hear that many are still incarcerated or sectioned. Many whistleblowers for the work they do. So I must catch up, and this is as much to reach out to you guys to get back to me and bring me up to speed, because I can't get back to everybody individually, no matter how hard I try. Between my blog, 2 YouTube channels, 2 Facebook profiles, and email, you know, this would be 24/7 to catch up. So I'm just gonna come on here, hopefully fairly often, and I'm just even though I filter my comments for approval because of severe professional trolling, so don't panic if you make a comment and it disappears. It just means it's gone into my to be approved box, but I'll try and keep on top of that, and you know, feel free to bring me up to speed in comments. So yeah, so John Patterson's still, I think he's been transferred from Eastbourne Psychiatric Unit to Chelmsford Prison Psych Unit, which is very sad. He had his 70th birthday there yesterday. He's a veteran, ex-Navy guy, and you know, a character, a larger than life character for sure, but somebody, as far as I can see, that took up the challenge to disseminate truth about Finchley Road and money laundering and pensions disappearing, and you know, shell companies and financial fraud that Gordon Bowden researched for decades. And you know, I think John Patterson just decided to try and get that heard by the BBC and by the public and by the police. And so it's pretty tragic that it's ended up with him being incarcerated. I don't think he ever had a criminal offence in his life previous to whistleblowing. Oh, I added to my pottery collection. Thank you, Claire. I love it. The other ones are a bit dainty and small. So I'm drinking way too much coffee. I must, anyway, I must just keep alive and healthy, as must you. So yeah, so John Patterson's in Chelmsford, and I haven't really caught up on that, but Matt Taylor did a live stream, hey Matt, on YouTube that I dipped into yesterday. Also, I know that I heard Sabine McNeil, 74-year-old disabled advocate for children and campaigner, who got horrendously sentenced on foot of complaints by Ricky Derman. I heard that she was to be extradited to the country of her origin, which is Germany, but that was being delayed, and possibly DC Steve Martin was being obstructive about that procedure going ahead. And I think one of the reasons is because German law would never have sentenced her, even had she been guilty, it would never have sentenced her beyond 2 years, and she's served way more than that already. So prayers for Sabine's extradition and then release, and for any obstacles to that, you know, especially if that's been given the green light, for any obstacles to that to be removed, that would be great. The Carol Woods case, that's pretty shocking too. I think she's been in you know, sectioned illegally without the proper paperwork and without due process, and I think clearly the woman is not mentally ill whatsoever. She's been, until they sort of silenced her and isolated her, she's been regularly interviewed, both inside the multiple attempts at sectioning her in psychiatric units, secure psychiatric units against her will. The woman is an ex-social worker with vast amounts of evidence and paperwork, which, you know, deals with very high level corruption as well as cover-up. So ongoing travesty of justice there, and prayers for Carol Woods, and you know, more power to those that are working to free her. And Field McConnell. So yeah, so last time 3 people were dead, 3 of my whistleblowing colleagues were dead. It's slightly better this time, but it's not good at all that they're incarcerated or sectioned against their will. Field McConnell, Abel Danger, another character, another giant in the truth movement, you know, tripped up by, is it Kim Picasso, you know, and many others. There are those that can say, you know, how did it take this long for somebody somewhere to grab Field and incarcerate him? The service that he and David Hawkins have given to humanity in disseminating truth since 9/11 is phenomenal, you know. So he's also, I think he's coming up to 70. Why do they keep going after all these pensioners? I still smoke. Shush, Pam, stop laughing. Yeah, well, why do these big brave bullies keep incarcerating pensioners? It's quite sad. It's the nature of bullying, I guess. Children or pensioners or mentally vulnerable people seem to be easy targets. So who else? So Carol Woods, Sabine McNeil, Field McConnell, John Patterson. I'm sure that, oh, Melanie Shaw. Melanie Shaw, now they're a good, I haven't done, like I said, I'm only back, not even fully unpacked yet, but there are good noises coming out about that Melanie may be free in March from the Rampton Secure Psychiatric Unit. And Melanie's another, you know, child abuse survivor that started whistleblowing very powerfully. And I have a hard drive. Yep, there it is, with all the evidence that Melanie Shaw, I must put that in a safe place now, I'm showing it, but it's backed up elsewhere as well, with all the evidence supporting Melanie Shaw's whistleblowing, you know, including, I think at some stage, a social worker was quoted as speaking against her, and Melanie found that social worker's grave. The social worker died quite a bit before, so all the evidence is there, and I'm sure Melanie still has even more of it. So prayers that she will indeed be released from Rampton in March, and that she'll be given time to, I haven't got an ashtray, I'm gonna have to excuse me, so pause, I'll just get myself an ashtray. Yeah, so prayers that Melanie will prayers that Sabine will be extradited and released in Germany, that Carol Woods will be freed and her evidence properly processed, despite people in high places having, you know, much to answer for, you know, Cherie Blair and Tony Blair, and it goes back years. So let's, you know, long may it continue that truth can be disseminated on the internet before the hammer comes down, you know, and it becomes a glorious memory. But I'm not going to be doom and gloom. I'm feeling quite optimistic. I'm feeling quite excited about life again. And I'm very grateful as well. I'm rambling, but it's okay. I'm very grateful because a couple of people asked me, you know, did I get paid for my work online? And I said mostly it's donations in kind, although there are those that have covered my internet and website costs and things like that, which is great. But I'm so still humbled looking back since I went, you know, kind of went back online, you know, when my youngest went off to college. I'd been online part-time, but just privately before then. I'm so grateful for things like, you know, the beautiful artwork from Colin Black. And Colin, by the way, I have I not only have the beautiful picture you gave me over the fireplace, Soul Sisters, but I've got the beautiful print beside it of the mother and children on the beach that you, blood, sweat and tears went into. So gorgeous. I'll take a photo of that and upload it. And things like the office chair from Nick, you know, fabulous office chair, because you know, I have back issues, and things like, you know, Timmy coming and painting the house out of gratitude for some work that myself and Kathy Morgan did. Things like the computer I'm working on, because mine was confiscated in a raid a year and a half ago, and I think Danny Jones has put a rather unflattering clip of that day, but he hasn't made it clear that that was a year and a half ago, and you know, there was no arrest, there is no charge, so it caused some confusion. Thanks for those who got in touch and said what's going on. So yeah, never been arrested, no charge, but I did have my tech taken, and within 24 hours, well-wishers and supporters had replaced computer and phone, and somebody else gave me a video camera, just so that's just reflecting on the last few years and just being very, very humbled and very grateful for all the support, as well as the, you know, fantastic support, Pam and Bev and Artie and Jake, and so many people that just have stepped up, and especially when there was like something particular, like flying to London, working on the Hampstead case, or, you know, looking after Tracy Ann and Paul when they had the baby. And it's been a journey, and I'm very humbled and I'm very grateful. Kathy Morgan, yeah, she's got some new research I was noticing, connecting Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell. He of also the stolen pensions. Interesting, the Finchley Road thing. I bet there's some Robert Maxwell connection. Just somebody else doing great work as well on Finchley Road still, and connections with some of the main players in the Hampstead cover-up. Brilliant work going on there. But Robert Maxwell has connections to the MK Ultra type research and studies and funding projects in the UK, which was so sort of under the radar, really. Everybody became aware of the American CIA collusion with Nazi scientists and so on post World War II, but it was much, the MK Ultra work in the UK was much more under the radar. So Robert Maxwell connections with Jeffrey Epstein and similar. Anyway, so Kathy, if you're there, let's do a show and bring your PowerPoint up. That would be great if you want to get in touch. Kathy came and stayed with me, having almost given up on moving to Ireland, and after a couple of months, that dream came true. So she's brilliantly researching and enjoying life down in Dingle in Kerry. So that's great. Good job on the new research, Kathy. Who else? Melanie Shaw, yep. Prayers and hopes. Phil McConnell, I'm still... Oh, goodness me. Look, I'm going to find the pause button. See, it's been a while since I did this, so I'm not all prepped, but then was I ever? Pause. Okay, back. Yeah, so Field McConnell and Denise, I don't know if Denise is back in the UK. I know Field is managing to broadcast from prison where he's on remand, I believe. And I followed one of them, and much of it he's sharing scripture, which is great, because, you know, regardless of the 70 years and 10 or whatever, in this earth, it's only a tiny part of our eternity. So good on you, Field, and love to you, Denise, and hope you're sort of, I don't know, I just hope that things are, I want these people to be free. I want these whistleblowers. It's so ironic when criminals are still in positions of power and whistleblowers, elderly, disabled, and minor, are either missing or incarcerated. So, you know, prayers and whatever I can do to help reverse that, I will. Yeah, I have been receiving information in my absence, and I haven't caught up on all of it yet, but ongoing sort of sad disclosures regarding Heather Brown and myself. Heather was somebody I interviewed originally and then co-hosted some shows with and had great fun with, and really was fond of Heather and trusted her. And periodically Heather would, what I thought, have an attack of paranoia and decide that I was hiding millions, or I was in cahoots with her ex-social workers, or God knows what. But Heather and I would be great friends and then do some great shows and have a lot of fun. And a lot of people, I had a lot of feedback from people saying, you know, they've got their headphones on doing their housework, giggling away with Heather and I, you know, and some seemed like some serious internal issues being discussed as well. And so I just put, you know, the periodic blowback from Heather, I just put it down to paranoia on her part, or somebody in her ear, or the fact that I'm targeted and pretty convincingly discredited from time to time, you know. But it's been suggested to me that it was more than just paranoia on Heather's part, that actually it was part of a plan for her to come in on me, ostensibly as a victim giving testimony, but actually with a view to discrediting me and discrediting the Hampstead case. So some shocking revelations coming forward, and to the person that sent them, yes, indeed, I've prayed for you and I'll continue to pray for you. And if your intentions are, as you say, then, you know, there's a God that forgives, and you know, he turns nobody away. So, you know, do it for your own. I know you say for your children and grandchildren's sake, you want to make things right with God. Do it for yourself too. You know, we're all children of God. He made us all. And you know, if you are genuine, because in this cyber world, who knows who is who online? I swear to God. But you know, after several years of doing this, you develop a sense of when there's truth. I've always felt that I had an acute discernment around the truth coming out of survivors, because I am one, and I've worked a lot, especially with children. So there's a ring of truth that's unmistakable, and that's the biggest compliment anybody's ever given me, is when they talk about the ring of truth that comes through. So Elisa and Gabriel, we continue to pray for. Tom Dunn's still doing sterling work. The legendarycampaign.com is still a resource. You you know, others are still doing sterling work, and it's 6 years. November 2014, September 2000, August 2014 was when Gabriel and Lisa first disclosed. So in August this year, it will be 6 years. And, you know, in my heart, they're still not rescued. And I think there's a scripture that says when you've done everything you know to do, stand and still stand. But there's also a scripture that says when we come to the end of our own resources and our own ideas, our own efforts, and there have been sterling efforts with many campaigners, you know, arrested, maliciously arrested or raided or imprisoned or psych-sectioned or so on. It's been a very, very rocky road. But when we've come to the end of ourselves, that's, you know, we can and do ask God to take over, to just rescue those children and disclose the truth. And I suppose that's the final thing I'll update on in case anything else occurs to me, unless anything else occurs to me, is Todd Bentley. I'd made a video a few months ago just about my personal experience with Todd Bentley and a healing, you know, with his prayers and those of Pastor Israel and Peter Gammons and many others. I had a healing from cancer, and you know, my son was healed of epilepsy. I've had a healing of COPD emphysema with a horrendous diagnosis or prognosis in 2012. So lots of healings, and I'll stay on this while I just think of it, is that's how I've finally been able to come to terms with living out my recovery and going to meetings. I mean, I know the roots of AA are very questionable in terms of MK Ultra and Freemasons and all the rest of it, but do you know what? AA is made up of the people within it, and so is a church. So even if there is corruption and cover-ups in church, or projects and people management agendas in organizations, it's as good as the people that go to it. So one of the ways I've been, because I've had healings and I've seen miraculous healings, and I've prayed for people. I prayed for with others for a 22-year-old who was profoundly deaf from birth, and she got her hearing back fully, and had to learn to speak properly because, you know, she'd been deaf from birth, and she could never hear herself, so she had to go to speech therapy. So I'm very clear that miraculous healings take place. But in terms of my little Achilles heel of abusing alcohol when I'm under vast stress, or sometimes with no good reason at all, I was waiting for the healing or for the circumstances to calm down. And the truth is, I think when addiction has progressed beyond a certain level, you know, from, say, maybe being alcohol, you know, maybe abusing alcohol or being alcohol dependent or whatever it might be, whatever your drug is, I think there is a line, and when it becomes an addiction, I'm holding it more as the Apostle Paul referred to a thorn in his side. And some have said it was a physical ailment he had that wasn't healed. Others have said it was a conflict in that he was married with children, and yet he was wanting to be free to do his ministry, and that was a constant source of conflict in his life. I don't know. But the point is, he cried out to God and said, look, why have you not removed this thorn in my side? And God said, I'm not going to remove it. I'm going to give you the grace to walk through it. And so that's what I'm walking in, is the grace to recover and just exclude alcohol from my life. Maybe even eventually nicotine, who knows? But that's not a mood altering substance. It's just a dirty, stinking, expensive habit. And you know, go to my meetings, go to aftercare, you know, have a life, have a life, and replace the, you know, replace the empty parts. you know, I can't live all of my life online. And I do feel strengthened and ready to start a new phase of my life in real life as well as online. You know, I will never turn away a survivor, or you know, if I'm in a position to help somebody or interview them, help them get their story out, as I did with the Irish politician's niece. She's finally had a file sent to the DPP, so please God that will bear fruit. And yeah, I've had like 10,000 views, 8,000 views, quite, you know, on my videos. I just checked the views, and some of them are in the hundreds and others are in the thousands and above. So that's great. And one of those that had 10,000 plus views was the Todd Bentley video I did, and I've just been catching up a little bit on that. And you know, I'm not going to get it seems that there was for those that don't know, Todd Bentley is a reformed biker, drug dealer, you know, very obvious sinner who found God and Jesus, and was bestowed with an incredible anointing for healing, but sadly still had his weaknesses, which you know, seemed to disqualify him from any position of trust in terms of taking on interns, or having influence on vulnerable people. So that's a sad situation. You know, that was just that was the recommendation of the church body that took it upon itself to investigate the claims of victims who said that Todd had been sexually and otherwise inappropriate with them. You know, they were found credible. This is not a court of law. It was a church council that came together to investigate. I think they investigated 60 claims of impropriety, and their conclusion was that they were credible, that the church needed to do more to take care of victims and to make it safe for them to disclose spiritual abuse in the church. You know, the evangelical church, Pentecostal, any organization, not just the Catholic Church, not just the Anglican Church, any organization in a position of trust and power needs to have a structure in place for sin to be exposed, you know. And the biblical model for that is, if your brother offends you, in the first instance, go to your brother or sister one-on-one and confront them. If it's resolved, that's, you know, that's great. If it's not, go again with witnesses, you know, and attempt again. You know, if you have information or evidence that somebody's in sin and claiming to be representing the church or God, take a couple of witnesses with you and try again to say, look, this has been brought to our attention. Is this true? What's going on? You know, will you address this? And so on and so forth. If that person is still not responsive, you take it to the church. And this is what's happened with the Todd Bentley thing. It's been taken to the church. And if that still doesn't produce justice, especially for the alleging victims, then you broadcast it, you take it to the world, you know, cry out from the street corners, you, in this day and age, put it on Facebook, whatever it might be, you know, put it on YouTube. And that's a last resort, but it is sometimes a necessary one to avoid cover-ups. And this goes for all corporations, organizations, especially churches. If there's sin in the house, no amount of protecting the church or the flock justifies cover-up. And the ones that suffer the most from that kind of spiritual abuse is always the survivors. At that point, one would call them victims, because there needs to be some sort of justice. There needs to be a being heard, but there also needs to be consequences for the actions that were wrong. You know, there's always forgiveness, but there are consequences. It's like you know, they're just consequences to sin. And yes, the scripture says that he is without sin cast the first stone, but kudos to Patricia King who gave an example. She, because a lot of people would say, you know, love covers a multitude of sins, or let he's without sin cast the first stone, or judge not lest you know, want to be judged. But if you just break it down, as Patricia did, by saying that as a mother, if she found out a babysitter had sexually abused her children, and then that babysitter subsequently repented and, you know, got help and what have you, yes, it would be healthy as that mother to release them to the justice that they have walked into, whether it be jail or sex offenders register or treatment, whatever it might be. But only a foolish mother would then employ that babysitter to babysit their children again. You know, and a child would have every right to say, you know, that's failure to protect. So, you know, that is another sad chapter in church history, is the Todd Bentley affair. And I don't, you know, my video is there. Perhaps I'll put it in the link in the description box here. And it's not for the views. I don't monetize my videos. I don't make any money from view counts. But just pray for the church and try and follow those basic 1 to 4 steps of conflict resolution. If you hear something, and I have to pull myself up on this too, sometimes, if you hear something very damning and credible, go to that person in the first instance and say, is this true? And will you talk about it? And then the next step, take a witness. The next step, take it to the church or whatever group, you know, whatever your organization is. But the final step, and this is probably something I've done and paid a high price for, and others have paid a higher price for, is in the absence of any justice, shout it from the rooftops. And that was a fabulous point that Sabine McNeil made. A legal point was that if a mother has sought help for her children without being heard at any level, she's done all the right things. She's gone to the police, she's gone to social services, she's gone to, you know, whatever system is in place to support a mother trying to protect her children. If none of those has resulted in protecting her children, she has the right to appeal to the public. She has the right, the legal right, which is, you know, if that had been enforced, Sabine McNeil and others would never have been jailed, because as a last resort, a mother has a legal right to the court of public opinion. And just on that note, on my Facebook, I shared a very horrible report for, I think it was the New York Times, January 20th, something like that, of exactly a similar situation where a New York cop and his new girlfriend had gotten custody of the children from his marriage, and his wife repeatedly reported that the children were being neglected and abused. And sadly, multiple reports, including from the school and from I'll show you the article on my Facebook, but multiple reports were ignored, and one of the children was found dead. So the Court of Public Appeal is a powerful thing, and while we still have it, the Court of Public Opinion, rather, I should say, while we still have it, we should use it. So let's go screen share. Okay, I haven't done much on Facebook, and to my, let me see, done. This is one of those put your earphones on and do the housework updates. I think that's a lovely compliment. I don't know if it's this Facebook. I've got 2 Facebook. Oh, what's that? Facebook memories. What's that? 2017. We'll have a look anyway. So I'll just see if it's here that I posted that. I love this. This is my favourite one. What's the emergency? Someone's telling the truth on YouTube. And that was August 2018 when my house was raided. But look, we forgive them. I'm just going to see if it's here that I put. After gossiping about me, please pray for me. I want to be perfect like you. Heath, victim. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Mike Tarraga. Oh, look, that's lovely. That's what I want. A wood carver to make something like that. Beautiful. Right, so Jokestead is dead. The 66 files. So we'll just find the other one, and I'll just try and end on this. Well, I don't really want to end on tragedy, but I'm making a point that if there's my second profile. If a mother's cries for help are not heard, it can have horribly. Yeah, look at this. 12 calls to child abuse hotline did not save this 8-year-old boy. And you know, they called the mother mentally ill because the father was a cop. Well, not just because he was a cop, but certainly the fact that he was a policeman. This is the copper father from NYPD and his new fiancée, both now in jail for murder. Yeah, the mother had reported that the children were being sexually abused. The allegation was investigated, determined to be unsubstantiated, blah, blah, blah. Multiple calls that were ignored. And please God, this is not. We need to listen to the children, basically. Yeah, she said her husband told judges that she was mentally ill. She reported physical abuse, she reported sexual abuse, and the school reported the children coming to school from their fathers and saying they're not allowed to tell, and if not, they'll be put in the garage for punishment, you know. Oh, dear, dear. Yeah, in court proceedings in which she frequently represented herself, the mother, Mrs. Zubko-Valva, claimed a vast conspiracy, quote unquote, between child protection agencies and law enforcement to protect the officer. The boys frequently not to go to the school nurse. Yeah. So all the cries of the mother and school and so on were not heard. And the little boy, one of the children, sadly, tragically died. So, yeah, how do I get out of that? A dozen calls. Close that there. Yep, so 222 homeless died in Ireland over the past 4 years. I would say that's doesn't cover all of them, actually. Yep, so that's it. Just checking in, and thanks for all the new subscribers. Yeah, lots of new subscribers on YouTube. I think we're over 2,000 now. Yay. And welcome to all the new friends, and onwards and upwards. Yeah, so in the comments, if there's anything, obviously I've only just checked a few things. Would love to speak to, I don't even want to say names. I don't want to lead the trolls to anybody, but you know who you are. Let's catch up. Let's talk, and yeah, let's carry on making a difference. God bless everybody, and thank you for your patience with my extended absences in 2019. May 2020 be good to all of us, especially the children. AngelasCashes.org. God bless.